So when we have a strong dollar, one thing happens. It sounds good. But you don't do any tourism. You can't sell tractors. You can't sell trucks. You can't sell anything. It is good for inflation. That's about it. And we have no inflation. We've wiped out inflation. But it's an interesting question. So I will never say I like a low currency, but you remember the battles I had with the yuan, with China and with Japan, Japan being the yen. They always wanted a weak currency. They're trying to get a weak currency now.
There's a quiet shift happening, one that could change how the world moves money. Not through loud declarations or overnight collapses, but through strategy, digital infrastructure, and silent agreements. The BRICS nations are building something powerful, a currency system outside of US control. And by 2026, it could be ready. While the dollar still dominates global finance, BRICS nations now expanded and more influential are laying digital rails for their own monetary future. A new currency backed by blockchain and central bank digital systems is in motion. Could it launch by 2026? And what would that mean for the dollar? Summit sparks, Brazil 2025, and the turning point. At the 17th BRICS Summit held in Brazil in July 2025, world leaders didn't just meet to exchange handshakes. Behind closed doors, major progress was made. The conversation wasn't about replacing the US dollar overnight. It was about creating independence, specifically financial independence. The leaders reaffirmed their commitment to monetary cooperation, expanding the use of local currencies in trade, and pushing forward the development of BRICS Pay, the group's cornerstone digital payment infrastructure. These weren't just symbolic gestures. According to analysts from Ultima Markets, this summit laid down a real roadmap, a phased implementation strategy aimed squarely at launching a BRICS-backed currency by 2026 or 2027. But this new currency isn't just a coin or a note, it's a system backed by blockchain, integrated with central bank digital currencies, and designed to bypass old mechanisms like SWIFT. And if successful, it could carve out a parallel financial universe for nearly half the world. The new scale of BRICS, 46% of the planet's people. With its latest expansion, BRICS 10 now includes 10 countries, representing 46% of the global population and around 37% of the world's GDP. This is no longer a fringe alliance. It's an economic colossus with ambitions that go beyond politics and into the architecture of global finance. Russia and China are already using the ruble and yuan in much of their bilateral trade. India is settling deals in rupees with Global South partners. This isn't just talk, real transactions are being settled without dollars. When you step back and look at what's happening, the strategy becomes clear. The BRICS nations are training their economies to function without the US dollar before the new currency even arrives. And the result? A gradual but undeniable reduction in dollar use for everything from oil and gas to rare minerals. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think your country would join this system if the dollar becomes harder to access?
Indonesia has officially joined BRICS as a full member, according to the Brazilian government's announcement on Monday, marking a significant expansion for the influential bloc. The new addition brings the total number of BRICS members to 10, which now includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and Indonesia, alongside recent entrants such as Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. This enlargement reflects BRICS' growing influence among the emerging economies and its ambitions to reshape the global economic order. So let's explain what's BRICS all about and why it's expanding. Founded in 2009, BRICS was created with the aim of challenging the dominance of Western powers and global institutions.
What BRICS Pay really is. You've probably heard the term tossed around BRICS Pay. But what is it really? It's not an app on your phone or a replacement for your local bank. It's an interoperable digital payment platform built to connect the financial systems of member countries, allowing cross-border transactions without needing dollars or Western intermediaries. The system is being built on blockchain technology, which offers something no other international payment system has managed: real-time settlement with transparent tracking, but without relying on legacy infrastructure. And more importantly, BRICS Pay is being designed to integrate with national CBDCs, which makes it future-proof. Countries like China and India are already deep into CBDC research and testing, and BRICS Pay will serve as the bridge between them. This isn't theoretical. By 2026, pilot programs are expected to test how these national systems connect essential groundwork before any common currency can officially launch. But what happens next might just shock you. Digital currencies versus the dollar's core advantage. Let's be honest, the dollar isn't just a currency. It's a system of trust that powers over 58% of global reserves and is backed by the largest, most liquid treasury bond market on Earth. Its strength lies in scale, history, and the fact that right now everyone else still uses it. But that's exactly what BRICS is trying to change. By enabling direct settlement between their national digital currencies, BRICS nations can eliminate the need for a dollar intermediary. Over time, that can shift how prices are set for major commodities, especially energy. Oil priced in yuan or rupees, for example, would have been unthinkable a few years ago. Now, it's already starting to happen. That doesn't mean the dollar will collapse, but it does mean that its reach could shrink, especially in regions that prefer not to be caught in the crosshairs of US financial sanctions or interest rate shocks from the Federal Reserve. Would your country benefit from bypassing the dollar? Comment below. Project mBridge and the test lab for BRICS currency. Behind all this progress sits a key piece of tech infrastructure you may not have heard about, Project mBridge. This is where the idea of a digital BRICS currency is being tested in the real world. Project mBridge is a cross-border CBDC platform being developed in collaboration between several central banks, including those from China, the UAE, and other major economies. The aim is to create a sandbox where digital currencies from different countries can interact directly without dollar conversion or Western oversight.
Sai da frente.
It's not just theoretical. Successful tests have already taken place, showing that this model works. BRICS is watching closely, and in some cases, contributing directly, because mBridge represents the technical backbone for any future currency system they launch. And while mBridge won't single-handedly take down the dollar, it changes how global transactions could be done in the near future. Fast, secure, and most importantly, outside the current system. Challenges ahead. Political and economic alignment. Of course, this won't be easy. Creating a shared currency between China, India, Russia, Brazil, Iran, and other BRICS members isn't just about technology. It's about economic alignment, and that's where the real test lies. Each of these countries has its own monetary policy, inflation rates, and political priorities. And let's not forget the tensions that sometimes bubble up within the group. Iran, now a BRICS member, has already pushed back on Brazil's calls for global governance reform, showing just how delicate coordination can be. But despite these challenges, BRICS members are progressing steadily. Economic coordination is improving, and work is underway to establish monetary frameworks that can handle the transition. This isn't a single currency dream like the euro. It's a multi-currency, blockchain-supported system that allows diversity and cooperation to exist side by side. And that's what makes it so hard to stop. What could a 2026 BRICS currency actually look like? If we fast forward to 2026 and BRICS launches their currency, what would it actually mean? First, it would increase financial autonomy for nearly half the world's population. That includes giving governments more control over interest rates, inflation responses, and capital flows without having to factor in dollar availability. Second, it would reduce exposure to US sanctions. Countries could settle trade directly, avoiding the freezing of reserves or blocking of transactions that often comes through SWIFT. Third, it could impact dollar-based assets, particularly in energy markets. If even a portion of global oil, gas, or rare minerals begins trading in BRICS currencies, the pricing power starts to shift. Over time, that could mean less global demand for dollars, and that has serious implications for the value of the dollar itself and the cost of US borrowing. Still, the dollar won't disappear, but it will face real competition for the first time in a very long time.
Having seen the beauty of Rio de Janeiro, it's time to reflect on what we are here for. The gathering of BRICS member countries and partners. South Africa says the summit was a success.
To have a summit of this size, adopting a declaration, just goes to prove the success thereof. And there were no dissensions, and we are particularly pleased with that. So it's a community of countries that want to see progress in the world, that want to see a fair and equitable world where people of the world are treated fairly and equitably. And we also dealt with the issue of people-to-people contact.
Dollar stability versus decentralized systems. The US has one clear advantage: scale. With trillions of dollars circulating, $31.5 trillion in treasuries, and financial infrastructure that's deeply embedded across institutions globally, the dollar is still the safest bet for many investors. But that's changing not because it's failing, but because others are rising. And that's the real story behind BRICS. They're not attacking the dollar, they're building their own roads. Roads that lead away from Washington, away from Wall Street, and into new financial systems shaped by digital sovereignty, decentralized trust, and mutual benefit. That's the real threat, not collapse, but irrelevance. If more nations start choosing these new roads, the dollar won't need to fall. It'll just matter less. Why is the dollar falling so fast in 2025? While BRICS is rising, the US dollar is facing its worst year in half a century, not just because of foreign pressure, but because of what's happening inside the US itself. In the first 6 months of 2025, the dollar index dropped 10.8%, its worst start since 1973. The reason? A storm of unpredictable and unfunded policies from the Trump administration that has rattled investor confidence. His sweeping tariffs on global imports caused panic across markets, erasing over $5 trillion in US stock value in just 3 days. That event, dubbed Liberation Day by Trump, didn't free markets. It frightened them. The proposed One Big Beautiful Bill, aiming to extend massive tax cuts while increasing borrowing, threatens to raise the US debt by another $3.3 trillion by 2034. That's on top of a debt-to-GDP ratio already sitting at 124%. Add in Trump's attacks on the Federal Reserve's independence, and the result is a confidence crisis in the dollar. Central banks are reacting too. Gold is hitting record highs as countries try to protect themselves from a weakening dollar. And foreign investors? They're quietly pulling out. With over $19 trillion in US stocks and $7 trillion in US treasuries held overseas, even a small shift makes a big impact. All of this is happening as BRICS prepares to offer an alternative, not just out of ambition, but because the dollar no longer looks like the reliable anchor it once was. The final countdown to 2026. So, will the BRICS currency really launch in 2026? All signs suggest that something will be ready, maybe not a full-blown shared coin, but a functioning digital system that connects national CBDCs and enables fast, secure, dollar-free payments across borders.
The BRICS Summit in Rio de Janeiro ended with leaders of emerging economies that make up half the world's population and 40% of its GDP standing together to demand a new world order.
BRICS is convinced that we don't want a world under tutelage. We don't want any more Cold War. We don't want any more disrespect of sovereignty, nor any more wars. We need structural changes to live in the 21st century and not in 1945.
The technology is nearly there. The political agreements are being signed, the trading patterns are shifting, and while the Western media might downplay the significance, the rest of the world is watching and preparing. This isn't just a trend, it's a transformation. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Would you use a BRICS-backed currency if it meant faster, cheaper payments, and more control over your money? One thing's for sure, the world of global finance is changing, and 2026 might be the year everything starts to feel different.